Well, welcome along this another podcast from the Shrimps Trust. It's another ShrimpsNet. After another quiet and uneventful week at the Mazuma, nothing much has happened, so we thought we'd try and get some interesting guests on this week. And we couldn't do that, so you stuck with me and Joel as usual. But we do have our fragrant and this week busy but tame board member, James Wakefield, joining us today. James, welcome along.
Hi, Freez.
And also to give their take on the last 7 days, we've got our match day announcer. His voice is very, very familiar to everyone, and his beard is now familiar to everybody on YouTube. Mark Swindlehurst, welcome along, Mark.
Thank you. Can I not be fragrant as well, please?
No, James is always fragrant, even though he's just played five-a-side. And we've also got our political firebrand and season ticket holder to discuss the week's meanderings from a left-wing point of view. It's Michael Gibson. Posh, welcome along.
Marvellous. Thank you very much for having me. Good evening.
I'm going to keep it in the traditional format and start with Shrewsbury. And it's going to be one of them tales that where were you when you heard it was called off? Swidge, you can start. Where were you?
I was sat next to you in your car.
Yeah, exactly. Where were we?
We were desperately needing a wee near Wrexham at the time, I think.
Correct. And Quinny very kindly rang you, and while you took that call, Rod Taylor rang me, saying turn round, and I was like, oh. And then the thing that got me, chaps, and it was like, I read it again, and it's true, and it was like the referee called it off because of the state of the pitch and the forecast for the afternoon. Well, I don't know where he got his forecast from because it was bloody glorious sunshine all afternoon. Joel, discuss.
Yeah, I can vouch for that because I was actually in Shrewsbury all afternoon.
Thank you.
My point of finding out was, I think we just walked over a little bridge. We were walking through Shrewsbury from the train station. We just walked over a little bridge over a river or something like that. I don't really know. And this young lad just walked past us the other way, said, it's been called off. So we checked Twitter, and yeah, we're a bit gutted, but onwards to a pub called the Nice Head, which served a very interestingly named shot. I'm probably not going to say on here because it's a very rude word, but yeah, it was at the end of the day, it was a good afternoon, and obviously I understand that a lot of people were travelling down with some. Oh, gone. Sorry.
What was the weather like?
It was lovely. It was really nice. We had a little bit of time out in the beer garden. It was very good.
So, James, you reckoned that was basically, that might not have been the match referee. That could have been a local referee, mightn't it, at 1 o'clock?
I honestly don't know. I think my issue with it is not so much that particular one, but it's just the rules of the game generally. There shouldn't be the situation where people are travelling hundreds of miles and being told an hour before kick-off that they're off. And we weren't the unluckiest that day. There were other people who travelled 400 miles that day. So, yeah, I think somebody needs to take a look at it, come up with a policy so that doesn't happen, because it is a nonsense, isn't it? And you know what? For me, a game should be played in the wet if people have had to travel all that distance, and we should just get on with it. It's the same for both teams.
Well, again, it's easy to criticise because I don't know but looking at the little video of the man who did I'll throw it onto this little bit of, and there's about half a dozen people stood around with forks, and I'm like, and I don't mean forks, I mean forks for digging. So why weren't they digging? And literally, you could have had that puddle away in about 30 seconds. I just didn't get it, but that's the way it is. And that turned out to be the last called off match of Stephen Robinson's reign. Before we go to that little, that shall we say, cast iron nugget that we're going to talk about, I want to talk about the Rotherham game. Obviously, Baz and Wayners took over. They played 3-5-2. We conceded our customary worldie in the first 4 minutes, but after that played pretty well. Then they scored on the break, and then from then on, yes, it was end to end. They hit the bar, they hit the post. Trevor Carson made a good save, but we had 8 shots, and their keeper played out of this world. And Joel, I'm sick of saying it. We've only won 3 in 23, but we should have got something.
Yeah, again, it's another game where we kind of come away from it frustrated. I think a point probably would have been fair, I'd say maybe, but it's just one of those where obviously early on Ladapo great bit of individual skill. It's a nice finish from the second one, and a great bit of individual skill from Dan Bartlett, who's a cracking midfielder, to make the chance. And then obviously throughout the first half, we'd had a few good chances, and then second half, even more good chances. Unbelievable display from the keeper. Cole's popped one over the bar from close range, which as you say, you probably put your mortgage on that. Just one of those days. Again, we're kind of running out of days, which is a little bit concerning. But hopefully, the lot's got to turn at some point if we keep putting in performances like this.
And I'll come to Posh now. You've seen the highlights. You look at the free kick that was given against Cole for a squeezy little push, and Bedo puts the ball in from the corner. And quite rightly, the first thing that myself and Glenn said was, would he have given a penalty for that? And every single person in the world who knows anything about football would say, no chance. And so when you looks out. And then obviously in the last minute, Ryan Kearney goes down right-hand side, completely skins his man, curls it beautifully. It's the post. There's Obika, there's Cole, and there's somebody else stood there, and it falls back into the keeper's arms. And I'm like, if we carry on like this, we're brilliant and we're doomed.
Yeah, I think Joel's mentioned this on Twitter, but I think the last 4 games, our expected goals figure, and obviously, it's real goals that count, but expected goals, we're better than, I think our numbers are better than every team we've faced in the last 4 games. And, we constantly look like a side who should be winning. We don't. And it's difficult to see what the difference is. And I think Rotherham was Freddie Ladapo. I thought he looked magnificent. And, the save that he got, that Trevor made right at the end of the game was another example of his fantastic movement and pace and skill on the ball. But he really was the difference that I think without the side, we would have comfortably taken that game to them. But I think we'll probably come to this, but I think the biggest thing that you could take out of the game was just an enormous amount of I think a lot of us, Mark and I actually were watching the game, and we were kind of terrified that we were going to get, the heads were going to go down. There's going to be a reason here. We could get thumped tonight. And when those first 2 goals went in, you were fearing the worst sometimes. Yeah. But the performance was absolutely magnificent, and for so many Rotherham fans to say that apart from Wigan, we were the best side to go there was a real testimony to that, what a brilliant side we were. And we really, really worked our socks off. And just that sheer level of pride. But the other thing was, and Mark spotted as well, was the guys all together in a huddle game, which I haven't seen before. They're all there together and actually believing they can do this. And I didn't see any difference from, in fact, even took a step up again from where we were, when we had Stephen Robinson. It's fantastic to see. So it just proves that Derek's got something fantastic to work with going forward.
And looking at the job Swids that Baz and Wayners did, they used the subs intelligently. Obika came on and made a difference. They started with Usman Fane, whatever you want to call him, and he had a really good game as well. Toombs was absolutely imperious, and I've seen hundreds of Morecambe teams play worse than that and win, and that's the disappointing thing, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we played so well. I was so disappointed that we didn't get anything out of that. I'm disappointed for Baz as well. I mean, he really stepped up, and he always does whenever we need him. I think short notice to get the squad as well drilled as that, I thought was absolutely superb. And I think Wayners as well was just living his best life, stood next to Baz, wasn't he? He was just having a day out, wasn't he? He was loving it. It was what his dreams all came true. It was just awesome to see.
Yeah, and like I say, from the obviously you were quite busy that night, James. I gather, because obviously you were watching the game and trying to find us a manager, I would imagine.
Yeah, I managed to watch most of the game. I did spend a good part of the second half on the phone, but I echo what everybody said. The lads played absolutely wonderfully, and I tell you what, hearing Anthony O'Connor's words after the game, that if anybody's questioned that man's attitude or that man's true understanding of leadership, then go back and listen to what he said.
Exactly.
He basically said it's all about going on the pitch. We lead ourselves. Anything can happen in football, but we don't need motivation. We don't need somebody to tell us what to do. And they were just fantastic, absolutely wonderful. I enjoyed that, honestly, as much as I enjoyed us watching us coming back from 3-0 down against Doncaster. So yeah, it's a team that keeps on going. It's just a team that keeps on going, and that's got to come good in the next 12 games.
Well, and like I say, I go back to the incident where Bedo scored the goal, and like I said, yes, there was a push, definitely a push by Cole, but he wouldn't have given a penalty for it. And if a defender does that on an attacker, it's never given. But if an attacker does it on a defender, and he's given it, so you can't complain. But I go back to the Accrington game. There was an incident in the first half where we had a corner, a dangerous corner, where Cole impeded the keeper, and he spotted it straight away and gave it. Both of Accrington's goals, Carson was impeded, and he never gave a thing. And you're just like, why is it always us who are suffering with the referees?
Well, take Doncaster. I mean,
Exactly.
their keeper could have been arrested for grievous bodily harm for what he did, and we didn't even get a free kick.
No, I think it was a penalty, wasn't it? It was a penalty.
Yeah, absolutely. And sending off, yeah. We just haven't had the rub.
It's easy to blame that, but then again, we have created all those chances. Abika had a really fantastic chance, which the keeper made a worldie from. And, we did, obviously, as we said, we hit the post, etc., etc. Is it just a question of a change of luck, Joel?
Maybe. It's hard to put your finger on these kind of things when the ball's not going in, even though you're making the chances. Because ultimately, like, to an extent, what more can, like, as a management and a team can you really do? Work as a team, you create the chances, and that's how you score goals. You don't score goals, you don't create chances. And when you're creating more chances and better chances than your opponents, but they're not going in, and it's hard to put your finger on. I think part of it probably is a little bit of maybe belief, confidence, luck, just those kind of slightly more intangible things. Will hopefully we'll come into this obviously soon enough. But hopefully Derek can maybe galvanise a little bit, but we'll have to see.
To paraphrase that advert about how simple Derek is, Derek. So we'll move on now to, and I'll start with James. Obviously, Fabrizio Romano on Twitter, St Mirren are approaching Morecambe. They fancy the manager, and that's sort of like 4 o'clock Monday. And by Tuesday morning, he's taking training at St Mirren, and I'm like, I mean, that must have come as from our point of view, it came as a massive shock. What about the board of directors? Did you see that coming? How did it work?
No, it was a shock, complete shock. I don't believe it was rumbling on for days and days and days. I think it was probably something that developed over the course of the weekend, but it was a complete shock, no question. I got a call from somebody who said, have you seen what Fabrizio Romano said? And I'm pleased to say, I was like, who's he? Because I don't care who people on Twitter are. But then I looked and I was like, oh. And I mean, yeah, I was as shocked as anybody else. And it all moved incredibly quickly then. We went from sort of like, oh, and then, yeah, it was there. So, yeah, it was a shock. So
it came as a surprise to all fans, obviously. And it's been obviously a lot of discussion on the Facebook and on the message boards, etc., etc. I'll come out and say straight away, as soon as the rumours came out, I was like, well, he's going to go. He's going to go, because if somebody offers you more money in a job, you're going to go, and that's what I always think. And I don't mind saying, like, I'm probably one of the few people who just accepts there is no loyalty in football, and there hasn't been for quite a few years. And I just think I'm just being, it's optimistic to say, oh, so-and-so will stay, but, and it shouldn't always be about money, but, if he's protecting his family and they've offered him a great deal and blah, 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 and you can joke about it all you want, going from, as somebody's put on one of the memes, he's gone from the greatest football pyramid in the world to a pub league. But that's up to him if he's getting paid, isn't it? So anyway, what are your thoughts on that, Posh?
To me, it's not about money. It might be for Stephen Robinson, but I think there's greater levels that people like James and I experience running companies, that there's things like integrity and honesty and all these kind of things that matter a huge amount when you make an agreement with somebody. So I'll give you an example. So if I've got a junior member of my team, they come to me and you're on a salary of, I don't know, your salary of 30 grand or something, it's perfectly you're entitled, you're right to think, I've got a long career ahead of me, I've got I'm and I've got this bigger job, and I want to go and move. Absolutely fine. But if I go and hire somebody on a really big salary to go and head up the company and become, say, a managing director in my business or something else like that, they come to me with a plan. It's not like a normal interview. You're not just doing a job. You're building something. You're empire building. You're working with that team to be an integral part of it and work with other people. And you're such an integral part of that business and that opportunity. And Morecambe at the football club, at the end of the day, is a business as well as being, something community thing that we all support and love and everything else. And there is differences, but I actually think that should engender more loyalty, not less. Because you're doing it for it's not just a company. It's there's a town and a people and a fan base who are all really loyal to it. And yet, so you put more on the table than about money, and you have a sense of duty to hold the values that you brought to that conversations. I'm going to do this over a 3-year period. I'm going to do this. I think it's great. I love it here. All these kind of things. When you get the first chance to go and prove that or not, and you just walk away from it, then that's going to sit on him for the rest of his career, and he'll never be able to do it again. I'm telling you that now, because that'll haunt him.
Everything you said is absolutely right, but the main difference in what I'm saying between what you've said and what he's done is, it's not business. It's football.
No, it isn't. It isn't. But it isn't. It isn't about business. It isn't about business. It isn't about football. No, it's about you. It's about how human beings deal with other human beings.
I know.
And the things that you put on the table when you sit there in a boardroom or whatever it is, and you put these things on the table. Could have been a whole raft of things. He said, yes, I might look at it in the way that Derek. To be fair, if I understand it, and James can probably clarify this more about the whole Bradford situation, but my understanding was he was talking to Bradford back in the December before he actually eventually left. Now I don't know what happened with all those discussions regarding Derek, but Derek stayed, even if he'd had that discussion say 6 months before. Derek's presumably stayed true to his word to the football club and said, I'm here till the end of the season, even though there'd been an approach to him and everything else, that he stayed with us and stayed loyal to us for that next 6 months, which would have allowed us in theory to plan or do whatever he would have done. But to walk away at that first thing, people are taking the mickey about a pub league and everything else. And yeah, the ability to play in Europe and do whatever. But the reality is, what's the best for him? 4th place is as exciting as it gets. If they get 3rd, it's like, but you're never ever going to win. You're never going to come 2nd because Celtic and Rangers are going to win it every season. Yeah. So you're just taking part in a little merry-go-round with 12 teams with nowhere else to go apart from the odd game against some.
Yeah, you're right.
Not, yeah,
you're right. But I do see his reasons for going, because all his everything you said there is no integrity there, and like I say, there is criticism of Stephen for the way he's done it, and I don't like the way he's done it. But I'm not surprised. That's my take on it. Go on. I was going to say, Swids, you've got a view on this, being doing the job you do.
I've got lots of views. So there's two marks here. We've got knee-jerk, irrational mark, and then we've got calm, reflective and considered mark. And I think come Monday, Tuesday, it was the former rather than the latter. I think we all felt just let down. I think we felt, and we see it from the fans, we're really involved and invested in the club emotionally, and to Steve, unfortunately, it was just a job. We can't understand that, because it's our football club.
Yeah, you're right.
So I think we were all really upset and couldn't understand it. It was like a loss. But then, as the week panned out for me, and it became clear that, that Derek was going to be coming back, in my mind then, the rational side kicked in. And I thought, well, Derek and John were the management duo we wanted at the beginning of the season.
Yeah.
Now we got them, So, I think it's great, and if anyone is going to keep us up, it's going to be those two. They know the club, they know the infrastructure, they know the people. They know a lot of the players, all right, not all of them, but if I know Derek and John, well, John does for sure, but if I know Derek will have done his homework on them all, and he will have a plan, you know, I would not bet against us staying up. You know, I'm convinced we're going to stay up. And I think we've got a better chance now than we did have at the beginning of the week.
And I would agree with you completely. And please don't get me wrong, I'm not in any way, shape or form sticking up for Stephen Robinson. I'm as disappointed as everybody else. But as soon as St Mirren came in for him and there was money on the table, yeah. I'm just saying it's turned his head. I'm not saying it's right.
Stephen Robinson's gone. Let's move on.
Yeah, exactly. But Joel, I know you've got a nice little story that you've sort of you can embellish and say somebody else has pinched off you or you've pinched off them. But you've got a theory about us, and so Swids about Morecambe managers.
Oh yeah, no, the whole a few people have mentioned this on on Twitter about James and the board playing a bit of 4D chess, letting Bradford pay a bit of compensation for our manager, then selling his replacement and getting Derek back on a free. I mean, what more can you want? But yeah, I think it's interesting listen to some of the points you're making. I like Posh's kind of business comparison because it is like you say, he wasn't just some kind of lowly in a lowly position in the company. He was the manager of the football team. That's really quite a big job, and he's come in with a plan. And ultimately, football. You say football's not a business. Football. I agree, but more from the perspective that football is emotional. And you say loyalty's not a thing in football, but you know, look at people like Baz. You know, it kind of. Football kind of flips from kind of, I feel like it kind of has the extremes more. You get some moments of what feels like extreme disloyalty, and they probably feel more extreme because of the emotion. But then you also get some instances that are extremely loyal, and it's just life, I guess. But
unfortunately, it's my jaundiced view that the loyalty is the rarer one of the two, and that's.
Very possibly. I haven't thought enough about it, to tell you the truth. But really, you know, he's made these promises. And I think from the club's perspective as well, like, it's a two-way thing. And I think, you know, I don't think anybody can say that the club hasn't backed Stephen. You know, they've gotten Martin Foylan as the head of recruitment, which is his man. They've built the infrastructure off the pitch, well, partly with the head of recruitment, but obviously people coming in like Ben and the general manager, you know, who Stephen has sung the praises of. So the club have been working towards things, and like, you know, we've not, you know, got a pot of money we can just pull a training ground out of the bag, but we're working towards it. And also our form and our performances, to tell you the truth, were very poor in November and December. Like when you look at the performances, the underlying numbers, as well as the actual results themselves, they weren't good. But the board and the club, we stuck by Stephen, and they gave him a chance in January. They said go into January, you know, fix whatever areas of the squad, and he fixed it. And fair play to Stephen, he did that, and we're seeing it in the performances now. But we've shown that faith in him, and then for him to kind of turn around at the first sign of bit more cash, and let's be honest, a bit of an easier job at St Mirren, because it is difficult, this job at Morecambe. Let's not make any bones about it. But for him to turn around like that, it feels quite, you know, angry. And I think it's all right to be angry and a bit emotional about it, because
of course
it's football. Yeah. It's emotional.
Yeah, it is. So moving on, I'll come to James now, because obviously Tuesday night we're on the way to Rotherham. We've got Baz and Wayners stepping up to the plate, who did a fantastic job. And you must be thinking, did you have an emergency board meeting and say, right, do we have a short list of one? Do we advertise it? Do we get somebody in short term? Do we give Baz and Wayners 6 weeks? How did it work?
We actually had an emergency board meeting on Monday night, and then we all went away and reflected, because we all had different thoughts and opinions, and then it was pretty clear what we needed to do, to be honest. We've maintained a good relationship with everybody who's left the club, unless there's been some sort of acrimony or issue. And Derek's a good manager. He's a very good manager. He's arguably, in my humble opinion, one of the best in the EFL. And as much as some people will have issues with what's gone on in the past, he got us promoted. He joined the club and he came to us, and he did exactly what he set out to do, and he did it in less time than anybody expected him to need. And yeah, we kept in touch. So in the situation we found ourselves in, which was completely unexpected and was a shock, it was something that was, I think, relatively obvious. And what happens in football is the moment something changes and there's a manager going out, you get a million calls, you get a million people applying, you get all of this noise and all of these people, calling different people. I don't know how the older people's mobile numbers, but, Charlie's got one and Mick's Pod's got another and I've got one, Mick's got 50. But no, it was pretty clear. And as I say, we maintain good relationships. This is maybe something from my background, but you never, ever, ever burn a bridge. And because you never know when you might need to cross it again. So yeah, it is where it is, and I'm very, very pleased that it's all happened so quickly, because we've got to win 6 from the next 12, and that's got to be the core focus. And then we've got to work out how to then kick on and develop all of the stuff that we're doing, just with a different person in charge of the first team football.
Moving on, we've still got eight players that Derek's familiar with. We've got a lot of cup finals to come, and we start with Ipswich on Saturday. I can't see too many wholesale changes myself. I was watching the game on the iFollow at Rotherham the other night, and the listening to the Rotherham commentators, who were very, very complimentary about us, but they were reading texts out, and they got a text in from Derek from Kirby Lonsdale, who's listening as an away fan, and whoever texts that in is a comedy genius, because I was laughing my head off. And did anybody else hear that? I just thought that was funny, because I was like, well, yeah, somebody's hinting they know something that we don't, and it was very prescient. But I can't see.
It was probably Charlie.
Yeah, quite probably. But it was a good one anyway. I started laughing out loud. No, that's comedy genius. And somebody's accused it. Was it you? I said, no, it wasn't me. But there you go. So I can't really see wholesale changes for the Ipswich game. Ipswich drew 2-2 on the first game of the season, surprised them that day. I think they'll be probably a little bit better equipped, and they're playing a little bit better football, different manager. They've got a fantastically assembled squad at great expense. There'll be some differences that Derek will notice. Obviously, having probably something in the region of 5,000 in the Mazuma is going to make a massive difference, because he won't have seen that before, because the highest crowd he's ever seen is about 1,400. So that's going to make a massive difference. But do you see wholesale changes, Freez?
Do you know, I don't know. I haven't thought that far ahead, if I'm honest with you. Derek will have his own way. I think Derek will just be pleased to have 5,000 people who aren't on his back, and I'm really pleased to see him. So I think that'll be absolutely brilliant. So I don't know how he's going to line up. He said in his interview today that he was going to go after them, but you never know with Derek as well whether that's just mind games or not. Who knows? I can't wait. Honestly, I was so looking forward to Saturday. I just feel like it's a little mini season that's going to be starting on Saturday, and we'll just have to all stay positive, all stick together, and get behind him. And
Posh, you're quite happy with the appointment?
Yeah, no, I agree with all that. I mean, I think, and everybody's hinted at one word, I think, throughout this is a bit of luck. There's been a lot of conversation about luck this season. What's happened with Stephen at the same time, Derek getting the boot just beforehand, set him up nicely for coming to us. You can call that luck if you want, but we're the beneficiaries, I think. We need a change of luck, and hopefully that will happen on Saturday, because we needed something to change. We needed something to change the results. And the big piece of luck that we've really had is that there's still 4 or 5 teams around us who, for all our problems, have not capitalised on it at all and moved forward. So what's going on at Lincoln, at Shrewsbury, Fleetwood, Wimbledon mainly, obviously. These are the ones who just haven't done anything themselves. And we've made a big change. Let's hope it just pays off. And you know what? And I'm with Mark. I just think it's really exciting. I think it's going to be absolutely fantastic, because when you keep saying that phrase, some of you feel like somebody's getting a real hiding off us.
And Joel, how many? I have said this on every bleeding podcast since about September, haven't I? that every team, no matter where they are in the league, has one game where everything they hit goes in and they beat somebody by 4 goals. And it hasn't happened with us yet. Please let this be Saturday.
Yeah, I think you said it for several years, and I follow as well before this.
I probably did, actually.
But yeah, no, it's interesting with Derek coming back, obviously coming up against Ipswich. I think our home form, I think a few things about the stadium, the pitch maybe a little bit play into our hands, the way we're able to perform on it and kind of squeeze teams a bit. I reckon Derek might be able to play to that. I don't really think there should be too much changed because we've been playing really well recently. Maybe a couple of tweaks. I'm sure Derek will spot things he wants to improve. I mean, it's interesting from a kind of stylistic point. I think it's interesting watching a lot of people talk about us under Derek last season because you'd think that we were a kind of like gnarly 1-0 shithouse side, and we really actually weren't. Just a couple of a couple of statistics to kind of reel off the top. Like we conceded the most goals in the top 7. We created the most chances in the division. I think our combined goals for and against is 127, which is the second highest behind Oldham, who were just daft. So he wasn't this kind of like gnarly. It was a fascinating kind of team because we were very low. We had the lowest possession in the division, but ultimately on the flip side of that,
he's gone.
Yeah, but on the flip side of that,
he's back.
we were also creating a load of chances. So and consistently more and better chances than the opposition. And as a result, we didn't actually keep a great deal of clean sheets because it was often we were outscoring people. So it's interesting to see some of the looking back because obviously the playoffs were quite gnarly and attritional. But one-off games against the top sides in the division that's how you win them sometimes. But I'm interested to see what kind of like marrying of approaches we'll see because I think for all and talking of people maybe making slight falsehoods out of certain styles of play, I think Stephen Robinson made a little bit. It was a bit disingenuous when he referred to how we play because he talked about this kind of passing football. And to it, let's be honest, we did knock it around nicely at times, nicer than we did under Derek and League 2. That's not surprising. We're in a high division with better players, but ultimately, since we've had this bit of an upturn in form, we've been quite a bit of a hybrid side. We like knocking it about, but we're also very, very happy to go long to Cole or Jonah. So it's when we kind of have this, we're just playing nice football, but we can't get the results. We're actually playing nice, quite effective football and getting chances at the moment. But there's a good bit of directness in there as well. So maybe Derek will look at maybe marrying them up. We'll just have to see. And maybe a couple of little motivational things he might have up his sleeve to kind of get that confidence and maybe just turn the look around a bit.
I think, and I go back to your point there in the fact that Wembley against Newport was possibly the worst game of the season. Any of us bothered? No, I thought not. Because it didn't matter because we got what we wanted. And it was the same in the away game at Tranmere. But the away game at Tranmere wasn't the greatest opening half. And then we sort of scabbed 2 goals. But did anybody care? No, because that's what we've got to do Saturday, James, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Although we've been playing good football. We've been creating loads of chances. I think the biggest thing for me on Tuesday night was they just kept on going. There was absolutely no let up in attitude or spirit or morale. It was truly impressive stuff. And I know Derek was watching it and thinking, oh, okay, this lot, I've got some fight in them. So how we set up, how we play is entirely up to Derek and his team. But I don't think necessarily we're going to see a massive change. And I agree with everything that Joel said. People see what they want to see. People believe what they want to believe. And people sometimes make something fit a narrative that somebody else has said has been repeated enough times and it becomes in their heads. And it's a lot of nonsense. We created more chances than any other team in the league in the 2020-2021 season. And as Joel said, we conceded a lot as well. And so we were not a team that some people believed that we were. And so I think the last 12 games are going to be good.
I think, and this is a stat worth coming out with, and the fact that the thing that got us into the playoffs was we won 23. the thing that kept us out of the playoffs, kept us out of the automatic promotion places, sorry, was that we lost 14.
Yeah.
So we were likely to win. Now, that kind of form, only drawing 9 out of a full season, that kind of form from now to the end of the season, i.e. out of 12 games, win 7, draw 1, lose 4, 5, that would keep us up. And that's exactly what we need.
Yeah. And nobody's better at working the resources they've got available and actually understanding the statistics and the data that feeds into how you play than Derek Adams. You know, he absolutely is a believer in playing what's real rather than what people perceive. So yeah, I think if anybody's going to achieve what we need to achieve in the next 12 games, it's Derek.
I've got an interesting, I think it's an interesting point to make. I want your opinions now. Derek went to Bradford knowing that he would have the pressure on his shoulders, but do you think, given the time that he's been there, that he's had enough time to do the job that we gave him, sort of like most of the season, sort of like November, December onwards, to sort out the wheat from the chaff, and he got us ready. And we obviously in the January he signed Toombs, and he got other people in and got stuff ready. Now he hasn't had that at Bradford. He got there late because obviously he left us late, and it was a sort of fait accompli. And obviously the only player that he took 2 with him, he took Hendry, who didn't last, and obviously he got Jan Songo. So from that point of view, Posh, the weight of expectation at Bradford is what's cost him his job. But surely that, they've got this thing where every Bradford fan you speak to, we were in the Premier League for 2 years, and it's like that was 20 years ago. Get over it.
Yeah, I'm being a bit honest. I mean, frankly, who cares about Bradford? I don't.
Exactly what I was thinking too. Who cares about Bradford City?
Bradford. It's Bradford's problem. If they've got over expectations of what their managers are going to achieve and they fail because that level of expectation weighs too heavily, then tough. Frankly, and that was what Stephen Robinson perhaps can reflect on, that actually we gave him an easy time. Those couple of months where he dropped Toombs and we started to really drop off and didn't look like a good side. And then he realised perhaps where he needed to be looking, and we started to improve again. I don't want that to have cost us. But as far as Derek's come into the side, it is about that change of look. But I think also that there's things that he will look at. I'm merely speculating. I'm not suggesting any of these kind of things. But if you look at the role that Jan Songo played in front of the defence, because you make that kind of almost like a 5, so that can drop in and you can add that cover, but you can also break away with the ball. Usman Fain, since he's come in, he could be that kind of ball winner on the edge of the box that helps break up play and gives us a bit more protection at the back from stopping maybe some of these silly goals. And he might see that as being part of the solution. You're guessing. He obviously used to play with a kind of 4-1-4-1 formation almost, or sometime with 2 up as well. But there's things that he may change, and a bit of a different style of play. But he'll look at what we've got and actually say, is this really working? This has obviously been working for us in terms of playing nice football, but it hasn't been good enough to get us results. So what little tweaks will happen? And Usman Fain, maybe a couple of tweaks in midfield. I think maybe we could do a lot better. We can make those little steps that could start winning us games.
So leading on from my point there, Swids, you're right. Nobody cares about what happens at Bradford. But I was, making the point that Derek's kind of coming home now, and there's going to be more than likely more than 5,000 there on Saturday. And most of them are going to be right behind him, which is nobody's been right behind him from Bradford from day one. So he's got to do a decent job, hasn't he? Because he's got everybody on his side for a change.
Absolutely, and if you think back, obviously to the season, to last season, there was no fans in, was there? It wasn't great, was it? And we were lucky enough to be there, but most of the fans watched it on iFollow. So it was a very different scenario. He was playing to an empty stadium. I think he had probably 3 months of 3 or 4 months of, but I think our crowd was below 2,000 at that point or something like that. So He's going to be great for him, I think, coming home, and I can't wait to see him, honestly, because half the entertainment of the match is him touchline as well. It's just great when how he reacts to bad refereeing decisions and stuff like that. He's passionate, he's great to have him and John back, who's he's probably just enjoyed his little holidays, John, and he's now back doing the job he loves.
Yeah, it's a strange one, isn't it? I think it might have been you pointed out that John got made redundant and we paid him off to the end of the season. He's back before the end of the season with another job. And I'm like, that's a good thing to happen, isn't it? I wish
refreshed and I'm ready to go again. It's worked in our favour, hasn't it? Absolutely.
Yeah, and it was very interesting because on the picture when he was stood between DA and Rod, there he is, and he's got jeans on. I didn't know he had a pair of jeans. So, James, are you? Hopefully, you're coming up. Are you coming up north Saturday for this momentous occasion, or are you watching on iFollow?
I can't on Saturday. I went to like 4 on the bounce until before the Rotherham game, and I was thinking about Shrewsbury, and then I'm very pleased that Storm Eunice hit, because Storm Eunice pulled out a tree, sent our trampoline like 300 metres down the road, and all sorts of other crap. So on Saturday I was like, I can't really go to Shrewsbury. I'm quite pleased I didn't. So I can't on Saturday, but honestly, I'm so looking forward to hearing the Mazuma. I wish I could be there, but I went to so many games this month that I wouldn't be very popular at home.
Oops. Yeah, you got to be. You've got to. The work-life balance has got to be right, and that includes the football, doesn't it?
Yeah, and it's as everybody knows, I'm not based that close, so it's quite a big round trip.
Yeah, and just as a matter of interest, James, just for everybody who's watching, if you're listening, it's not quite the same effect, but James just come off the five-a-side pitch, and I believe you're full kit wanker. Would you like to demonstrate?
I don't mind at all. I'm not embarrassed, honestly. I'm always full kit wanker on a five-a-side pitch. Normally, I wear the black kit because it's not quite so obvious. But no, I'm always full kit wanker on a five-a-side pitch.
I love it. I absolutely love it. And like I say, people have stopped giving you grief because you're used to doing it now.
Well, the hardest thing tonight was I was playing against 2 lads on there. I basically defended because everybody I was playing against was 22 or 23 years old. I'm 46. I'm like more than twice as old as these 2 young lads who are running at me. I'm like, I can't progress down this pitch because if I do, they're going to absolutely skim me. So I sat back, and yeah, I think being 46 years old, they don't dare say a full kit wanker.
Well, I'm glad to hear it. And Joel, looking forward to the Ipswich game.
Massively. I mean, it's Derek coming back as. Just you take the logic out of it, which is kind of the other way around how I usually say it, but like you can take the logic and the boring grisly bits that I usually like to think about, just as a story, as an emotional kind of thing. It's really great film, he's come back after promotion to come and rescue us at the last minute. It's as a kind of a good kind of story. It's brilliant, and if he keeps us up, it'd be amazing. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I'm anticipating quite a big atmosphere. Obviously, for his return, I think there'll be a few extra people because it's Ipswich, and it is one of the bigger sides in the division. I'm sure Ipswich will bring plenty. So, there's a lot of things going for it on Saturday, and then obviously topping it off with Derek's homecoming, first time playing to a really full kind of Mazuma Stadium. It's really exciting. I'm really looking forward to it.
Got 0-0 written all over it.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's that. Yeah. Thanks for that little ray of sunshine there. I was just going to say, James, it might be just worth jotting down what's happened this season, and then if Derek does pull us out of the mire, then give Spielberg a ring because it'd make a bloody good film.
Everything that happens in Morecambe will make a good film.
Oh, yeah.
Honestly, the last few years will make a good film. It's wonderful. But we again, as we said all along, we've got to make sure that we're not sort of caught up in the emotion and just happy to be here side of things. What's interesting is
who would play you then, James, in that film?
I don't know. I mean, I've got absolutely no idea. You've got probably a better idea than me.
Damon.
Bugger off. Bugger off. No, what I would say is this. We find ourselves with 12 games to go in the drop zone. We're just in a league higher than we were for most of the last 15 years. And if there's a time to find and reinvent that same spirit that we needed in all of those seasons up until 2 years ago, then it's now. And if we can do it in this higher division and then kick on, then yeah, the next couple of years are going to be really, really exciting. They'll be exciting regardless, but yeah, just rediscover what we did for so many years before Derek came along, basically. And yeah, the end of the season is going to be a lot of fun.
And I think that's a great place to end on, because you're absolutely right, James, because the simple fact is that when we were fighting in the division below, 1,400 was a good crowd, and we'll have over 4,000 Morecambe fans there on Saturday cheering them on, and that's got to be a good thing. And so a good time to wrap up. Thank you, as usual, Joel, James, for your time. Are you going home on the train like that?
Yeah, I'm going home in my full kit. I'll probably do my jacket up because it's 2 degrees here now. Like, honestly, and I'm not going to get home till 11 o'clock.
Thanks for doing this. Really appreciate it. If you want to donate any of your old kits to James, he will wear them at five-a-side. Swids, there's going to be emotion in your voice on Saturday when you're announcing Derek, isn't there?
I can't wait. I'm just thinking about the music I'm going to play as well. You know, the Return of the Mac, I think, and bit of M&M. Guess Who's Back? You know.
Yeah.
Well,
I shall look forward to that. Thanks for being with us tonight, and thanks for airing your views. Posh, thanks as always. Always thought-provoking.
Yeah, thank you. Sorry.
I was going to say, has he frozen there?
Yeah, Echo Everton is Morecambe football gift that keeps on giving. I mean, what a season. I mean, I can't remember. You know, you can fear the worst sometimes that you're coming up to a big league, but the excitement of seeing all these big teams, but oh my God, what a season. And the drama of the last week is just yet another moment, and let's see what we can do over the next few weeks, because God, it's going to be fun.
Yeah, you're right. Final word to James. Did you win?
Did actually. Won by 1 goal, and it was down to gritty defending for the last 5 minutes. So yeah, we did.
Backs to the wall. That's what we wanted to hear.
That's called foreshadowing.
Right, this has been ShrimpsNet. I've no idea what episode this was. Thanks to Joel, thanks to James, thanks to Michael, thanks to Mark. We shall see you all Saturday. If you're watching on iFollow, expect James to text in with, "This is James from London," as a home fan, because he reckons it was Charlie that did that one last night. Hope you enjoyed that. We'll be back next week to talk about the fabulous 4-0 win over Ipswich. I say that every week. Let's fingers crossed. Thanks for listening. See you then.